The investigator placed a photograph between us. Cedar walls, private dock, black Range Rover outside. "Do you recognize this property?" he asked. I didn't, but I recognized the purchase price printed beneath it, $684,200. Every dollar my grandmother had left me. For 18 months, my business partner, Evan Mercer, had insisted that money was gone, swallowed by debt and a collapsing company. Yet there it was, transformed into somebody's lake house. Whose name was on the deed? Evan and I founded Northline Millworks in Columbus when we were 29. I designed hotel interiors, he handled contracts, vendors, and banking. We survived 6 brutal years together, including one winter when Evan covered payroll using his own credit card. I trusted him with numbers because he had once trusted me with his future. Then, my grandmother Evelyn died, leaving me her bungalow, her nickel-plated letter opener, and $684,200 from selling farmland she had owned since 1968. What could possibly divide us after everything we had survived? Grandma's letter opener had paper remembers engraved along the handle. She never discarded an envelope, receipt, or canceled check, and I inherited the habit. At Northline, I opened every letter and dated the envelope before filing it. Evan teased me about it constantly. He preferred phone calls, handshakes, anything that left no clutter. "You're building a museum of junk mail," he once said, sweeping envelopes into my brass tray. Why would that harmless difference ever matter? 3 months after the funeral, Northline had a chance to purchase a 40,000-square-foot warehouse for $910,000. Evan proposed using my inheritance as temporary capital, then refinancing after our Marriott contract closed. Our attorney drafted an agreement requiring both signatures for any transfer above $25,000. I wired the full $684,200 into Northline's reserve account. Evan hugged the folder against his chest and promised, "Your grandmother's money buys our future." So why did my stomach tighten when he said it? The first crack was a $48,600 payment to Red Alder Consulting. Evan called it an environmental review. 2 weeks later, another $72,000 left for equipment logistics. I asked for invoices, and he produced polished PDFs carrying my electronic approval. I didn't remember signing them, but we were working 14-hour days, and Evan reminded me I often authorized documents from my phone. His explanation fit neatly. Too neatly. Why had I never spoken to anyone at Red Alder? Then Marriott delayed its project, our credit line froze, and Evan said the reserve had been consumed by deposits, penalties, and supplier claims. I mortgaged Grandma's bungalow for $180,000 to keep 32 employees paid. My palms split from gripping the steering wheel every morning outside the workshop. Evan, meanwhile, started arriving after lunch in a new charcoal Mercedes. He said his wife's father had died and left her money. Was inheritance suddenly his answer for everything? Evan resigned on a Monday before sunrise. His letter blamed my reckless expansion strategy and surrendered his shares for $1. By noon, his phone was disconnected. Our accountant reviewed the books and found signed approvals, notarized resolutions, and vendor contracts carrying my initials. The police called it a civil dispute. My attorney said litigation could cost $150,000 with no guarantee of recovery. Evan had vanished behind paperwork that appeared cleaner than my own memory. Had he truly planned every exit? Northline survived, barely, after I sold the warehouse option and moved into a cramped unit beside a tire distributor. 14 months passed. Evan posted photographs from restaurants in Barcelona, then bought a boat called Second Chance. People stopped asking whether I would sue him. They had accepted what I couldn't. He had taken the money and escaped. I kept Grandma's letter opener in my desk, though there was almost nothing worth opening. Then a battered envelope arrived with 17 cents postage due. Why? The envelope had been returned to Northline's former address, then forwarded to me. Inside was a rejected Ohio annual report for Red Alder Holdings, delayed because Evan had underpaid postage by 17 cents. He had used our old office as the company's return address, probably to keep his home off the filing. I read the manager's name 3 times, Evan James Mercer. Beneath it was a parcel number for a property on Buckeye Lake. Had one missing stamp just reopened the entire case? My attorney subpoenaed Red Alder's records. The company had received 14 transfers totaling exactly $684,200, then purchased the lake house from Evan's college roommate. The forged authorizations had been notarized by Evan's sister, Carla, including one dated while I was attending Grandma's funeral in Indiana. Faced with conspiracy charges, Carla surrendered emails showing Evan had designed the scheme before my inheritance even cleared probate. If he had planned so carefully, how could 17 cents destroy him? I confronted him during court-ordered mediation. Evan walked in bronzed and smiling until he saw the returned envelope beside Grandma's letter opener. The color drained from his face so quickly his lips turned gray. He reached for the filing, and I drove my palm onto it hard enough to rattle the water glasses. "You mortgaged her house," I said, my pulse hammered behind my eyes. "You watched me do it." What explanation could survive that sentence? Evan's composure cracked. Sweat gathered along his collar as he insisted the money had been compensation because I never respected what he contributed. I reminded him about the warehouse, the employees, and Grandma's name on the probate transfer. He slammed both fists down and shouted, "I built Northline." The mediator stopped recording for less than a second before my attorney pointed at the red camera light. Evan had just admitted motive, access, and ownership of Red Alder. Did he realize what he had confessed? Evan pleaded guilty to wire fraud, forgery, and money laundering after federal investigators traced the transfers. He received 57 months in prison and was ordered to pay $731,400 in restitution and interest. The lake house, Mercedes, and boat were sold. Carla lost her notary commission and received probation for cooperating. I recovered enough to clear Grandma's mortgage and rebuild Northline without investors. But after justice arrived, what could possibly make the house feel like hers again? I moved Grandma's nickel-plated letter opener back into her bungalow beside a framed copy of the final restitution check, and I still date every envelope before filing it. Sometimes my thumb pauses over the engraved words, remembering how an empire of forged signatures collapsed because one man refused to pay 17 extra cents. Paper remembered when everyone else had decided to forget.